So, Matthew and Michele, from your point of view, from assembling all of these moving parts, including assembling a cast that is a stellar cast, but you want a repertory sense where everybody kind of occupies the same level of performance and importance in the role. How did you bring on all those people and said, yeah, you're all going to work essentially at the same pitch, and you can fight over billing the way you want to?
Well, I mean, when I came onto the project, it was just, and we were in post on LBJ, and there was this great script. Obviously, Rob was directing. Woody was attached, but he'd always kind of been attached since we were making LBJ and wanted to be a part of this. And when we basically decided to go for it, the script attracted an incredible cast. I mean, it was literally within 4 or 5 weeks we had basically put together an incredible cast.
Was it word of mouth and people came to you, or did you just have to mention Rob's magic name? And
I made all the calls. I make all the calls. No. I call these people up. I mean, that's how you do it. You call them up and you say, I got something here. And here's what's interesting about this. The actors will work for virtually nothing if there's something they feel it's worthwhile and that they can be part of. And this was a pretty easy sell to every one of these actors. The only thing I can tell you, and Tommy Lee Jones jumped on, Jessica Biel, James Marsden, Mila Jovovich, they all jumped on. And initially, one of the first person I called was Alec Baldwin, and he agreed to play the part that I wound up playing. And the reason he's not there is, and we rearranged an entire schedule to accommodate Alex so that he could leave on Fridays to go up and to be on Saturday Night Live, with doing Trump. And we had been shooting for a week, and we were shooting with Woody and Tommy Lee. We had shot, and then on
So you were shooting around the Alec role.
Well, no, he hadn't yet come in yet. Mm-hmm. He was scheduled to come in because Tommy Lee Jones had a whole bunch of stuff with Richard Schiff in a restaurant. We had shot other things. We're going to get into the newsroom that we're going to be there for 8 days, and that's when he was going to start to come in. So on a Saturday, he was supposed to shoot Monday. That Monday, Saturday, I get a call from the agent saying he's not doing it. He quits. He's out. He's dropped out. I said, oh, my God, this is like insanity. We've been shooting for a whole week, and I don't know what to do. And so Michele says, why don't you play the part? And
good producing.
Yeah, I figured, well, I'm available, so I know that, and I will work cheap. So I said, okay, and then we went ahead with it, and I don't really like it because I don't like it's a split focus. But she gave me the one bit of direction that, because I'm playing this guy John Walcott, she said, just try to be less Jewish. If you can.
How'd that work for you?
I tried. I don't know. I'm born in the Bronx, and I am Jewish. I don't know how that worked. But.
So, Michele, you've seen him, of course, work through so many.
She knows
projects.
I'm Jewish.
No surprise.
She's seen me.
So, how does shock and awe play differently? I mean, how was his level of interest, excitement, engagement? Did it compare to some other projects that he had done? Was this something really personal for him?
Totally. He's very involved in this, in this topic. And we were obsessed with this. It was very obvious to us that they were lying and there was no reason to go to war, and we protested against it, and we saw it around the world. And for some reason, every, news outlet and, most Americans did not believe it. I don't still to this day understand what happened.
I think they got caught up in the patriotism, and we were shocked by 9/11. It was interesting because we played this film the first time we played it in Europe, in Zurich, in Switzerland. Standing ovation, because every place in the world gets what happened here. And like I say, it was like I felt like I was a parent. Wait a minute, what do you how can this be happening? How can this be happening? And it happened in Vietnam too. So the truth is important.
And I hate to say it, but every single review that is negative about this is reporters who seem to not be able to deal with the guilt of not having dealt with this properly. You know, that
So it's their failings that they're projecting
Yes,
on.
yes.
It has to
and-
be their failings. If you're a journalist and you're writing, got to tell you now, there's a lot of great journalism right now trying to get to the truth of what's happening with Russia and this country. We were invaded. There's no question about it. We were attacked. We were invaded, and you have a lot of people, pussyfooting around. The New York Times, which had to apologize for their coverage of the Iraq War, because they didn't do their due diligence. Because it's like the character that I play in the movie. It's the only thing you have to know. If the government says something, there's only one question you have to ask. Is it true? Is it true?
Yeah.
That's your only job as a journalist. Find out the truth. Because every single administration puts out propaganda. They do it because they're trying to sell a policy or a rationale to go to war. But you got to pin them down, especially when war is involved. Now something even more serious is involved, which is whether or not the democracy survives. It's under attack here and all around the world. So it will not survive unless the press is, and they have a big headwind right now, huge headwind. They've got 40% of the country being fed total lies by essentially state-run media, which we've never had in America, where we have an administration backed up by state-run media, Fox and Breitbart and Sinclair and Alex Jones. That's a big, tough thing. But if you remember, during the campaign, the New York Times had a headline saying there's absolutely no connection between the Trump campaign and the Russians. That was right there in the middle of the campaign, and everybody shut down. And this is after we heard that the Russians had hacked us. Now, maybe there wasn't, maybe there would be, but they didn't know that, and they printed that anyway. And those are the kinds of things that send people off on the wrong track. We need the truth now more than ever. We really need the truth. Otherwise, we're not going to survive.
How did you deal with talking to the reporters and the editor, the bureau chief, as you constructed this, as you did your research? Because there were a couple of lines like Intel cherry picking, they grab a piece of shit, paint it red, and stick it in a Shirley Temple, which made me laugh out loud. Are these the things that you're getting from the reporters, from what happened to them, or is this the script using what they told you to forward the story?
I try to keep as close to what actually happened as possible, and these guys were really funny guys, so they gave us a lot of great lines. I know Warren's line about "Are you a Republican or a Democrat?" seems to get one of the biggest laughs, and that's what he said. Luckily, he's a really shy guy, so luckily I interviewed his wife as well. But yeah, looking back at All the President's Men, that was definitely a model, as well as Spotlight. And I was struck by a couple differences. One is that in the story here, you're used to seeing the two young reporters who are pushing their story, and their editor is saying, you haven't got it yet. And in this case, it was reversed. It was these two young guys were doubting themselves, and their editor was trying to tell them that to believe in themselves. So that was nice that it was a little different story arc. And then the other thing that struck me is you're very used to seeing reporters going after sources, and sources don't want to talk, or they're a little cagey, and they say follow the money, but they won't tell you anything beyond that. And here, sources wanted to talk, and there were a lot of what you'd call leaks. And you realize that when good people in the government are seeing something that they think is bad, they want to tell people, and they need people who will listen. So unfortunately, that's not as great for drama when sources are willing to give up the information rather easily. But Richard Schiff goes into that restaurant, and he wants that story told. So.
And Matthew, from your point of view, because there is a legacy, a heritage of newspaper movies, what were you looking for in this one in particular, in the script and the approach, that would make it stand out as it does?
Well, I mean, a couple of the other films you talk about, All the President's Men and Spotlight, that's really pointing to and celebrating the success of journalism as a whole. There wasn't a truth to be known, and these guys dug it up. In this case, it points out a huge failing of journalism across the board, except for 4 people. And the fact that we went to war on a lie like this, it's breathtaking. And when you look at this and you somehow get dulled to the events that happened, but I mean, if you cast your mind back, it's amazing that it happened. So, it was an incredible story from all of our perspectives, and one that I really thought needed to be told.
What do you want people to come away from this film thinking, or maybe more importantly, doing?
Well, what I want, I'll tell you what I want.
Vote.
Yeah, vote is the big thing. This is a strange time. Well, first of all, to understand the importance of the press and to find, yeah, it takes a lot more work to be a citizen in this country now than it ever has before, because there's so much information being flung at you. Find places that you know are honest, and then read a couple of different things to really understand what is true and what's not true. And at the end of it, you have to vote, because here's the thing. The Democrat, and by the way, I've got a lot of good Republican friends, really good, that are very principled and very intelligent and very caring about this country. And they will tell you, if you want to save the country right now, you have to vote for Democrats. And they will vote for Democrats. That doesn't mean that they agree with the ideology of Democrats. But there's something that supersedes all that, and that is our country, democracy. Right now, there's no checks and balances. The press is under attack. The rule of law is under attack. And the president is in bed with all the old authoritarians around the world. He's trashing our allies. We're in a very strange place. So even though Democrats are the vast majority in this country, have been for a long time, we don't vote. And now we're going to have to vote even more. We won the last election by 3 million votes. We don't have an electoral college, but this is the midterms, and the electoral college doesn't come into play. We're facing headwinds of gerrymandering, voter suppression, and Russian influence, which is playing out right now as we're doing. So we have to win by an enormous amount just to take back the House, so that we can have hearings and we can start holding the president accountable. So that's what we have to do. That's what has to happen.
Please thank the panel.
Thank you.